Hurry. It's so fizzy. Whoa, I feel amazing.
One of the criticisms of the anti-sugar scientists is that too much of their evidence comes from animals, not humans. That said, here at Brown University in Rhode Island, they're doing studies they think should make a lot of humans nervous. This rat is perfectly healthy. Put him in a vat of water and he finds his way to safety every time.
5.2.
Now, look at this guy. What he's been eating is the equivalent of a North American diet, complete with all the fats and sugars we regularly consume. He doesn't know where to go. His brain has been damaged.
These rats were totally normal, and then they turned into demented animals. They don't remember their learning after even a day. And as the challenge gets harder and harder, they fail more and more, just like a human with Alzheimer's disease.
36.2.
In this lab, the belief now is that Alzheimer's is really diabetes of the brain, linked to insulin levels, which can be affected by too much sugar. Professor Suzanne Delamonte.
Now CNN's Sanjay Gupta on assignment for 60 Minutes.
The chances are good that sugar is a bigger part of your daily diet than you may realize, which is why our story tonight is so important. New research coming out of some of America's most respected institutions is starting to find that sugar, the way many people are eating it today, is a toxin and could be a driving force behind some of this country's leading killers, including heart disease.
So why do I call it the Coca-Cola conspiracy? Well, what's in Coke? Caffeine, good. So what's caffeine? It's a mild stimulant, right? It's also a diuretic, right? Makes you pee free water.
Is sugar healthy for you? Most people will say no. Sugar has a long history that shaped global economies, societies, and health. Sugar was domesticated around 8000 BCE in New Guinea, where people first chewed sugarcane for its energizing sweetness. The plant spread through trade routes to India and China. In India, innovators around 500 BCE developed the process to crystallize sugarcane juice into solid sugar, with the word sugar deriving from the Sanskrit sakara, meaning gritty particles. It reached Persia by the 6th century CE, then spread with Arab conquests across the Mediterranean, where it became a prized medicine and delicacy, used to treat ailments like diarrhea by providing quick energy. Crusaders in the 11th-13th centuries encountered this honey without bees in the Holy Land, bringing it back to Europe as an exotic luxury worth its weight in gold. For centuries, sugar remained rare and expensive. In 1226, England's king begged for just 3 pounds from a Cairo trader. But everything changed with the rise of plantations. After the Crusades, production shifted westward to Mediterranean islands like Cyprus and Crete, then to Atlantic territories colonized by the Spanish and Portuguese. Columbus carried sugarcane to the New World in 1492, where tropical climates proved ideal. Next, big sugar plantations. I am talking large-scale single-crop estates run by foreign investors using forced labor, emerged first in the Mediterranean and were perfected in the Caribbean and Brazil. Europeans experimented with local indigenous workers and white indentured servants, but high death rates and resistance led them to exploit existing African slave networks. The transatlantic slave trade exploded to meet sugar's demand due to brutal, labor-intensive work. Harvesting required manual cutting under tight time pressure, cane spoils within days, followed by crushing in dangerous roller mills. Machetes were always nearby to amputate trapped limbs, and boiling juice over hellish furnaces that burned workers. This system not only fueled modern capitalism, but also devastated lives, with sugar's profits rippling into industries like shipping, ropes, and guns. As sugar prices fell in the 1700s, 1800s, it infiltrated European diets. Kings displayed lavish sugar sculptures, but soon middle-class paintings featured sugar loaves, and it made bitter imports like tea and coffee palatable, driving Britain's tea boom up 400 times in the 1700s. Opium wars with China, and the Industrial Revolution's reliance on cheap colonial calories for factory workers quick energy via sugary tea and jam. By the 19th century, sugar's dark side sparked resistance. Quakers and abolitionists launched the world's first consumer boycott with pamphlets like Plea for the Poor, calling sugar stained with human blood, and urging ethical alternatives. People displayed slave-free sugar pots. These efforts, combined with slave rebellions like Haiti's and political pressure, led Britain to ban the slave trade 1807 and slavery 1833 in its territories. Exploitation persisted. Brazil and Cuba used slaves until later, and post-abolition, indentured workers from India, China, Java, and elsewhere replaced them under harsh contracts, many dying before terms ended. Meanwhile, Napoleon's 1800s blockade spurred beet sugar production in Europe, making sugar from cold climate crops viable and cheaper. Subsidies protected beet industries, flooding markets and undercutting cane producers in the global south, a pattern echoing today's uneven global system: beets in the north and sugarcane in the south. In the 20th century, sugar became ubiquitous through wars, rations for soldiers, marketing, sugary cereals sold as candy, instant juices, sodas, and industry tactics. The sugar lobby influenced science. In the 1960s, the Sugar Research Foundation funded Harvard Reviews and the New England Journal of Medicine to downplay sugar's role in heart disease while blaming fat, shaping low-fat guidelines for decades, and enabling light products loaded with sugar. Added sugars hid in everything: sauces, yogurt, peanut butter, fueling an obesity pandemic declared by the WHO in 1999, linked to diabetes, heart disease, and more. Consumption far exceeds WHO advice, under 10% of calories, ideally 5% from free sugars. Averages hover around 17 teaspoons of added sugars daily, though some data show slight declines. Sugar evolved from rare celebration treat to inescapable necessity, built on exploitation, innovation, and manipulation, reminding us that cheap abundance often hides human and environmental costs. Mindful choices, like fair trade or slave-free brands, echo 19th century ethical actions to push for better. Flash forward to today. Meet Alex, a high school senior who's always grabbing energy drinks and snacks loaded with sugar to power through late-night studying. Alex thinks sugar is just fuel. Quick energy for the brain. At first, it feels that way. Sugar hits his bloodstream fast, spiking his blood glucose. His brain loves glucose. It's the main energy source for neurons, the tiny cells that help him think, remember, and feel. But here's where the trouble begins. Too much sugar, especially from added sources like high fructose corn syrup in sodas or processed foods, floods the system. Over time, this constant bombardment makes cells resistant to insulin, the hormone that helps shuttle glucose into cells. Normally, insulin acts like a key unlocking doors for sugar to enter. In the brain, this process goes haywire. Researchers call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because the brain becomes insulin resistant, starving neurons of energy, even when sugar is everywhere in the blood. Studies show that high blood sugar directly boosts production of beta amyloid, the sticky protein that clumps into plaques in Alzheimer's brains. These plaques damage connections between neurons, leading to memory loss and confusion. Picture Alex years later in his 60s or 70s. What started as occasional foggy moments turns into full-blown dementia. Large studies, like one from the UK Biobank with over 210,000 people, found that higher sugar intake raises the risk of all-cause dementia, and specifically Alzheimer's. Another study showed folks in the highest sugar quintile were twice as likely to develop dementia compared to the lowest. Sugary drinks were especially bad. One long-term study linked higher intake to 8 times the risk of all dementia, and 55 times for Alzheimer's. But why does this happen? Sugar triggers chronic low-grade inflammation in the brain. It ramps up oxidative stress. Think of it as rust building up on brain cells. It messes with blood vessels, reducing flow and letting toxins build up. In Alzheimer's, microglia, the brain's cleanup crew, get overactivated or suppressed, failing to clear plaques. One Johns Hopkins study found a specific sugar molecule, a glycan, on proteins blocks microglia from doing their job, worsening plaque buildup. Fructose, common in sodas, is particularly nasty. It gets processed mostly in the liver, but also hits the brain hard, promoting inflammation and impairing the hippocampus, the memory center. High fructose diets in animals shrink hippocampal volume and wreck spatial memory. Sucrose, table sugar, does similar damage. Even fruit juice, often seen as healthy, links to lower brain volume and poorer memory in big cohorts like Framingham. Now zoom in on the rat studies, real experiments that show this isn't just correlation. At Brown University in Rhode Island, researchers like Suzanne de Lamont fed rats diets mimicking the Western high-sugar, high-fat pattern. These rats became disoriented in water mazes. They couldn't remember the safe platform, splashing around confused. Their brains looked like Alzheimer's. Memory areas filled with toxic protein clumps, like amyloid plaques, neurons dying off, and massive inflammation. De La Monte blocked insulin signaling in rat brains, and boom, Alzheimer's-like damage appeared with plaques and tangles. She calls it type 3 diabetes, confined to the brain. Other rat studies show high-sugar diets cause hippocampal inflammation, reduced neurogenesis, new brain cells, and impaired synaptic plasticity, the ability to form memories. In one experiment, rats on high fructose diets for weeks showed memory deficits that lasted even after switching back to normal food. Early life sugar exposure had long-term effects, wrecking adult memory. High sugar, high fat combos induced metabolic syndrome symptoms, plus Alzheimer's-like brain changes, amyloid buildup, tau issues, and cognitive slips. Sugar doesn't stop at the brain. It links to other diseases too. Chronic high sugar fuels obesity, insulin resistance, and inflammation, raising risks for type 2 diabetes, a known dementia booster, heart disease, and certain cancers. Reviews show added sugars promote cancer via the Warburg effect. Cancer cells love sugar for quick energy. Insulin spikes that feed tumor growth, and chronic inflammation creating a pro-cancer environment. Large cohorts link sugary drinks to higher overall cancer risk, up to 18% more per daily 100 milliliters. Pancreatic, breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers. One study found liquid sugars, like in sodas, raised cancer incidence and mortality dose-dependently. While not every cancer ties directly, excess sugar worsens progression in those with the disease by supporting tumor metabolism and weakening immunity. Back to Alex. Years of sugary habits quietly erode his brain's defenses. Inflammation builds, plaques form, neurons disconnect. What seemed harmless, extra cookies, sodas, adds up. Studies emphasize moderation. Cutting added sugars lowers risks. Healthier eating, exercise, and less sugar can protect it. This isn't doom. It's a warning. At 17, you have time to choose differently. Swap the soda for water, limit processed sweets. Your future brain will thank you. Science shows sugar isn't innocent. In excess, it's a slow poison to the mind and body. Elderberry gummies with black seed oil are yummy, chewy candies made with special stuff from elderberry berries, like a dark purple fruit from a bush. These berries have natural helpers called polyphenols that act like superheroes in your body. They can help keep your blood sugar from getting too high and crazy, which is important because too much sugar in your blood for a long time can lead to diabetes or make you feel sick in other ways. Scientists have done tests, mostly on animals and in labs, and some reviews of people, showing that elderberry can help your muscles suck up sugar better from your blood, slow down how fast your body grabs sugar from food, lower bad inflammation, and fight off stress that hurts cells, kind of like giving your body a shield against sugar problems. For example, studies found it helped rats with high sugar feel better and have steadier blood levels. And reviews say things like elderberry goodies can drop fasting sugar a tiny bit and make insulin work nicer in folks at risk. Back to Alex. How did Alex get this way? And why? Let's rewind to the 1960s. In the mid-1960s, alarming evidence began emerging that sugar, specifically sucrose, could contribute to coronary heart disease, CHD, the leading cause of death at the time. Studies from the 1950s and early 1960s had started linking high sugar intake to increased risks of heart problems, creating a potential threat to the sugar industry's market and reputation. In response, the Sugar Research Foundation, SRF, now known as the Sugar Association, a trade group representing sugar producers, launched a strategic effort to influence scientific opinion. Coca-Cola, one of the world's largest producers of sugary beverages, has a documented history of funding research and organizations aligned with the interests of the Sugar Research Foundation. In 1965, the Sugar Research Foundation launched a covert campaign to counter growing scientific evidence that linked sucrose, sugar, consumption to coronary heart disease, CHD, the top killer of the era. As detailed in a 2016 JAMA internal medicine analysis by University of California, San Francisco researchers led by Kristen Kearns. For example, in 2010, Coca-Cola provided millions in funding to launch the Global Energy Balance Network, GEBN, to promote the idea that lack of exercise, rather than excessive sugar or calorie intake from drinks like Coke. But would you need this exercise if you did not drink the sugar drinks like Coke? Kristen reviewed 346 internal industry documents. The SRF paid Harvard scientists, including prominent nutritionists, to produce a literature review published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1967 that downplayed sugar's risks and instead emphasized saturated fat and cholesterol as the primary dietary culprits behind heart disease. The industry not only funded the work, but influenced its scope, suggested which studies to cite, and reviewed drafts, all without disclosure requirements existing at the time. Conflict of interest rules only appeared in 1984. This manipulation helped cement decades of low-fat dietary guidelines that sidelined sugar's dangers, delaying widespread recognition of its links to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and other conditions like cancer. The revelations parallel other industry tactics, such as suppressing early tooth decay research or Coca-Cola's funding of studies blaming lack of exercise over diet, and drew criticism for eroding trust in nutrition science. In response, the Sugar Association defended the era's lack of transparency norms and rejected claims that funded research was inherently biased, while experts highlighted how such influence shaped public health policy and continues to complicate efforts like sugar taxes aimed at reducing intake. Internal documents uncovered decades later by researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, particularly Kristen Kearns, revealed that in 1965, the SRF initiated Project 226, a deliberate plan to sponsor research that would downplay sugar's role in heart disease and redirect blame toward dietary fat and cholesterol. This was motivated by a spike in media coverage around 1965, highlighting sucrose as a possible culprit, prompting the industry to act quickly to protect its interests. The SRF directly funded and shaped a major literature review published in 1967 in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine, NEJM. They paid 3 prominent Harvard scientists, led by D. Mark Hegsted and Robert McGandy from the Harvard School of Public Health Nutrition Department, along with Frederick Stair, to conduct and write the 2-part review titled Dietary Fats, Carbohydrates, and Atherosclerotic Disease. The payment amounted to the equivalent of about $50,000 in today's dollars, depending on exact calculations from reports. The SRF not only provided the funding, but also set the review's objective, suggested articles to include, reviewed and influenced drafts before publication, and ensured the final piece minimized or dismissed evidence linking sugar to CHD while emphasizing saturated fat and cholesterol as the primary dietary villains. Crucially, at the time, there were no requirements for authors to disclose funding sources or conflicts of interest in such publications. The disclosure rules didn't come into effect until 1984, so the industry's involvement remained hidden for nearly 50 years. The 1967 NEJM review had a profound and lasting impact on nutrition science and public health policy. By cherry-picking data and framing fat as the main enemy, it helped solidify the narrative that saturated fats were the chief cause of heart disease, overshadowing any concerns about sugar. This influenced dietary guidelines for decades, contributing to low-fat recommendations that dominated advice from governments, health organizations, and doctors well into the late 20th century. The manipulation aligned with broader industry tactics seen in other sectors, where sponsored research often favored the sponsor's product. Experts like Marion Nestle, a prominent nutrition professor at New York University, commented in an accompanying editorial that food industry funding frequently produces results beneficial to the payer, eroding public trust in nutrition science, and creating confusion about what truly drives diseases like heart disease. The revelations, detailed in a 2016 analysis published in JAMA Internal Medicine, exposed a pattern of industry-sponsored doubtcasting, similar to tactics used by tobacco companies. The UCSF team concluded that the SRF's actions in the 1960s and 1970s successfully shifted scientific and public focus away from sugar's hazards toward fat, with ripple effects on policy and consumer behavior that persisted for generations. In response to the 2016 report, the Sugar Association acknowledged that the SRF should have exercised greater transparency, but defended the science and accused critics of pushing an anti-sugar narrative. The episode serves as a stark historical example of how corporate interests can shape scientific literature, delay recognition of health risks, and mislead the public on major issues like diet and chronic disease. Discovery of cancer from sugar? In the late 1960s, the Sugar Research Foundation funded Project 259, a rodent study led by scientists at the University of Birmingham to investigate how sucrose, table sugar, affects gut bacteria and metabolism compared to starch. Preliminary results from rats fed high sucrose diets showed elevated triglycerides, blood fats linked to heart disease, and increased activity of the enzyme beta-glucuronidase in urine, an enzyme previously associated with bladder cancer in humans and rats, relative to starch-fed rats. These findings suggested that sucrose, unlike starch, could promote hypertriglyceridemia through gut microbiota changes and potentially act as a carcinogen by elevating this cancer-linked enzyme. In 1970, after partial results were reported, the researchers requested additional funding to complete the starch comparison and deepen the analysis. But SRF Vice President John Hickson quickly deemed the project's value nil, leading to its abrupt termination in 1971 without publishing the data or finishing the study. University of California, San Francisco, UCSF researchers, including Kristen Kearns and Stanton Glantz, uncovered these events through internal industry documents and detailed them in a 2017 analysis published in PLOS Biology. They argued that the sugar industry deliberately suppressed the unfavorable findings to avoid scrutiny of sucrose as a potential contributor to heart disease and cancer, especially timely given the 1969 FDA ban on cyclamate, an artificial sweetener, over rat bladder cancer links. By withholding evidence, the industry helped maintain focus on other dietary factors while delaying recognition of sugar's risks. The Sugar Association later defended the cancellation as due to bureaucratic changes, budget issues, and delays rather than suppression. But critics drew parallels to tobacco industry tactics of burying inconvenient science, highlighting how such actions eroded public trust.
Thank you, Di.